Dr. Anthony Harper here, blessed to be with Clare Lopez. And Clare, thank you for joining me. I know you have a lot of important background in dealing with Middle East issues. So you are concerned about what's happening in the Middle East, and what is your current status and what the things that you're working on?
Well, I am the founder and president of Lopez Liberty LLC. I've spent my entire career in government and as a federal contractor and in private now, also think tanks, the Iran Policy Committee, for example. And my entire career focused on issues related to national security.
Well, regarding national security, with the war on Iran, things really heightened. It intensifies. I just read a note about Donald Trump Jr. That made a comment about Tucker Carlson and how he's getting out of hand, saying that this could jeopardize the MAGA movement, and he thinks that President Trump's plan in Iran is very evil.
Yeah, well, I tend to rely on sources other than podcasters like that.
So you don't have much respect for podcasters such as Tucker Carlson
There are
or
other podcasters, perhaps some are much, much better, in fact, on these kinds of issues.
well, he has stirred it up on issues regarding anti-Semitism. I know he's been called an anti-Semite by some, but there's really troublesome things that are happening about the rise of anti-Semitism. So this war on Iran is really ratcheting things up. What is your take on about President Trump's decision to, and along with Israel, to attack Iran right now?
Well, we are right now talking on the evening of Sunday, March the 1st. So we're only a couple of days in to Israel's Operation Roaring Lions or Lions Roaring, and the U.S. Operation Epic Fury. So in these very first hours of these two operations, in very close collaboration and with amazing coordination and precision strikes, the United States, which of course we know had amassed quite an enormous armada, as the president would call it, of military forces, American, in and around Iran, around the Middle East area. And it is from those platforms, two aircraft carriers, the USS Abraham Lincoln and the more recently arrived USS Gerald Ford. That's in the Mediterranean near Israel, the Abraham Lincoln down to the south, Arabian Sea, more or less, south of the Arabian Peninsula, more or less. And as well, dozens and dozens of fighter jets, F-18s, F-22s, the Raptor jets, many, many more, aerial refueling tankers to keep them all aloft and almost serve as around-the-clock aerial gas stations, if you will. And then, like I said, in very close cooperation with the Israeli Air Force, President Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu launched these strikes against Israel just 2 nights ago. That would have been Friday night, the 27th into the 28th, early morning of Saturday, the 28th of February. Now we are 1st of March. And immediately the first targets that were struck were military command and control leadership positions. And I think we can understand why that would be, to disrupt Iran's command and control capabilities. Also then, other bases and facilities of the IRGC, that's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or Pasdaran, and certain other targets that would debilitate, would degrade and take down the capability of the regime to launch retaliatory strikes, which, however, it has done, despite massive targeting of whatever's left of its ballistic missile program, the launchers, the launch sites, the missiles themselves. But they have managed to send off a few of those. Most have been intercepted. Unfortunately, a couple have gotten through, and I wanted to mention that at least one very serious hit outside of Jerusalem, maybe 30 kilometers outside of Jerusalem metropolitan or city center at a community called Beit Shemesh. Unfortunately, a missile struck a residential apartment building with nine Israelis killed and many more injured. In addition to that, we just had President Trump on the air speaking to the country and telling us, unfortunately, about the death of 3 U.S. service members and another 5 or so injured that we know of right now. Not many more details about the circumstances of how those service members were killed and hurt. I expect we'll be hearing more of that later. But those are the casualties on our side so far. But this offensive, these strikes against the Iranian regime, expected to go on for quite a few days, if not even more than a week or so, 2 weeks perhaps. And as the president has said, the objective is certainly to ensure that any of the Iranian capabilities trying to, reestablish its badly hit nuclear weapons program at places like Natanz and Isfahan and Fardo, that those efforts cease immediately and permanently, that Iran will not be working on a nuclear weapons program, period, ever. Also, the targets we've mentioned, the ballistic missile sites, that would be, again, the missiles themselves, the launchers. Some of those are mobile launchers, others. So all of that will go on for a while, but the objective in the end, yes, to ensure that Iran will never have a nuclear weapons capability or have the ability to strike at our American personnel, bases, facilities all around the Middle East, or to strike at our friends, partners, and allies like Israel. And we can talk about this, but as Iran has struck many of its neighboring countries around the region as well. But overall, and even beyond those sort of specific targets, I think the objective, and President Trump has said this essentially, that these strikes are to set the conditions under which the Iranian people themselves can be successful at rising up and taking back their country, taking back their freedom from this oppressive Islamic regime. So all of that, maybe in a bit of a nutshell, going forward.
Well, the biggest issue, of course, is what I just heard recently about being that the Ayatollah has been killed, that he's dead, and there are celebrations in the street. And the song that came to my mind was from Wizard of Oz, where "Ding Dong, the Wicked Witch is dead."
Yeah,
and
well,
I just that was going through my head with these
yeah,
celebrations. So, what is your take on this big news for
right.
the Ayatollah being killed
Well, I
and
suspect
many others?
you don't actually mean the Ayatollah, because of course there's thousands of them, of Ayatollahs in Iran. What you probably mean is the supreme leader, and that was Ali Khamenei. He absolutely is dead. The regime itself has admitted as much. Under the Iranian constitution, three people are to govern in the absence of a supreme leader until the Assembly of Experts, it's their responsibility, will appoint a new supreme leader. And those three would be the surviving, I guess, president of Iran, Pezeshkian. He is still among us. Also, it is supposed to be the head of the judiciary, who would be Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejei. Although I had seen reporting that he had been eliminated, so I'm not quite sure who the representative would be from the judiciary, but it would be whomever it is that's the head now of the judiciary. And then the third would be a senior cleric from the Guardian Council. And of course, that is a senior Islamic juridical body of mujtahids, the scholars of Islamic juridical law. And so those three are to rule in the interim period until the Assembly of Experts appoints a new supreme leader. However, I had also heard, and I'm looking again to get the names right for sure, I had also heard that there had been appointed an interim supreme leader. Where did I put his name? There he is. That from the Guardian Council, again, a senior juridical scholar there by the name of Alireza Arafi had been appointed as the acting supreme leader. Now, I'm not sure that's confirmed, nor am I completely sure about reporting that maybe he also has, in this short few hours of his appointment, been eliminated. So that's a bit up in the air as to the replacement for the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. It might be this senior cleric, not an Ayatollah, by the way, but a senior juridical scholar, a mujtahid, Ali Reza Arafi. So stay tuned for any news on that. I'm not completely sure about his status.
Well, it is an ongoing, a developing story, and very troublesome that there would be any of the remaining supreme leader, Khamenei, members that are loyal to him that would be in power, because this is bad for the Iranian people. The Iranian people have been crying out for quite some time to be free from that oppression. And the big question is how are they going to get free from that? How are they going to get weapons? How are they going to defend themselves and really take over demolish that government?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're absolutely right about that, of course. And what we're seeing and what seems to be emerging, in addition to these, this constitutional requirement for those three individuals I named to be the interim governing authority, or if this Alireza Arakhvi, the senior juridical scholar, has been appointed interim supreme leader. But in fact, for a long time, up until now, and now, I think, and what it looks like to many is that it is the IRGC. It's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps that rules Iran. The clerics, they're still hanging in there from the Assembly of Experts and the Guardian Council, but they're not the ones in charge, and they're not the ones running the country. The Pasdaran is. And in particular, a couple of names keep coming up. Specifically, the Speaker of the Supreme National Security Council, Ali Larijani. And he formerly has a background, of course, with the Pasdaran. The other person often mentioned that is helping to administer, govern at the moment, is the Speaker of the Majlis. That is the Speaker of the Iranian parliament called the Majlis, and that would be Mohammed Bakr Ghalibaf. And those two, but others as well, from the senior ranks of the IRGC that have not yet quite been sent off to meet their virgins, although many senior military figures have been eliminated, and we can go through some of those if you like. But the point here being that it's really not the clerics in charge anymore, and maybe it hasn't been for a long time, but that it is the Pasdaran that's taking control right now, and that's a very dangerous development that we'll have to keep an eye on.
It is very troublesome. So hopefully, that there will be some good resolution to this. That the people of Iran that have been crying out, that so many that have died, their lives will be honored, and that the Iranian people will get their freedom that they deserve. So how long do you expect this war to last?
Well, as I said, I think at least, a week or more, perhaps several weeks. It depends on how quickly the targets that we went through before can be eliminated, and in particular that the power of the security forces that keep the regime in power, that those security services can be eliminated. And again, I mean especially the Pasdaran, their subordinate units, Quds Force, Basij, also the National Police. Each of these, by the way, has bases and headquarters facilities in every one of Iran's 31 provinces across the country. So it's quite an extensive network when you're looking at these, what you might call pillars of support of the regime. But those have to be eliminated. I would also add to those the ranks of the judiciary. I mentioned before Mohsen Ejei, who may or may not any longer be among the living, but the ranks of the judiciary are the ones that have been sentencing these thousands and thousands of Iranians that took to the streets and protested and were arrested, sentencing them to death. That's what the judiciary has been doing. So I think they belong on the target list. But, very, very specifically, what else, needs to happen. We talked about the nuclear program. We talked about the ballistic missiles. But, in addition, what we need to see are the diminishing, capability of command and control. That means communications, command and control of the regime, of the forces, whatever forces may be left. That would be telecommunications, that would be through cyber. These things are all on the list that just really need to be eliminated. I'm paging through my notes here to see if I have a good list of some of these other areas that need to be targeted, but I think those are the main ones. The communications capability for command and control among the regime, among the forces, the security forces of the regime, and certainly the leadership of each of these areas within the Iranian regime that may yet be there. In the meantime, of course, until all of that is taken down, the Iranian regime is striking out in every direction. And in these just last couple of days, they have hit all of their Sunni neighbors in the region. We can name Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Qatar even. Well, the Al Udeid Air Force Base there. All of these have been hit, and not every one that's been hit was hit on a military target. For example, in Kuwait, it was the airport that got hit. In Bahrain, I think it was, they hit a residential apartment building. So it's not only lashing out at military targets, but also, non-military civilian targets. So what has happened is that I think foolishly the regime in Iran has really moved these nearby, most of them Gulf Cooperation Council (GCC) neighboring states to unify, even considering there'd been a bit of a disagreement going on between Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates over what was happening in Yemen. That's gone. They are all united now, not only to defend themselves against the regime in Iran, but condemning that regime and stating their support for the United States and Israeli strikes against Iran. So, that is what a dying, desperate regime has done. It's unified the entire neighborhood against it.
A strange comment by the Iranian foreign minister that I just viewed was that he was asking the question, I don't know why. His statement is, I don't know why the U.S. would attack us in the middle of negotiations. We were making progress.
Yeah, you would be referring to Foreign Minister Amir Abbas Araghchi, who, if his lips are moving, probably is lying. Um, as if the Iranians held negotiations somehow in high respect, as if they have ever kept, the results of negotiations anywhere from the Non-Proliferation Treaty, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, to the JCPOA of 2015, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, Iran nuclear deal. Negotiations for that regime have been only a means to string us along and then violate anything agreed to, as well as in this particular instance now, these past few weeks, to delay the strikes that I think we all knew inevitably were coming from the United States and Israel as soon as we had gathered, all the forces necessary to the region. Yeah, quite an amusing kind of a statement coming from Foreign Minister Araghchi.
Well, I appreciate your comments on that, what I find somewhat humorous, but sick in some ways. But
Yeah.
on another comment is about in response to President Trump say that there's still some off ramps in this conflict. What do you see those off ramps being?
Well, I think what he's referring to are the original four conditions that the American side had laid down in these negotiations in Oman, Muscat, Oman, in Geneva, with the Iranian side. And those conditions were: number one, complete, total, and verifiable elimination of its entire nuclear weapons program. That means Natanz, Isfahan, and Fardo, all dismantled verifiably completely, all enriched uranium that they would have on hand, exported out of the country to the United States, no enrichment capability left behind, no centrifuges left for any enrichment at any percentage level. That's the nuclear program. A serious takedown of the ballistic missile program that we've talked about being struck not only in the last couple of days, but certainly going back to last June of 2025, because those ballistic missiles are at the moment probably the greater threat to our own American presence, bases, facilities, personnel in the region, as well as we've said, a danger, a threat to our partners, friends, and allies, including Israel and the other Gulf states. It's been the ballistic missile program that posed the most dangerous critical threat, which is why Foreign Minister Iraqi that the Iranian side would not even discuss that condition of the United States. And then the third would be a cessation, complete ending of Iranian regime support for its Islamic jihadi terror proxies to include Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hashd-e-Shaabi, militias in Iraq, and so forth. That also they would not even discuss during the previous negotiations. And then the fourth one that I kind of add, but that the President Trump had mentioned earlier on too, and that would be that the regime stop slaughtering its own people by the tens of thousands. So if we're talking about off ramps that maybe President Trump is now alluding to, perhaps it might be agreement to one or more of these four earlier conditions. Not very likely that any of them would be agreed to as stated, or even if agreed to. Of course, under Islamic law, Muslims are obligated to lie to infidels, but were they to have been accepted, they would not keep the conditions, would not live up to the promises of the negotiations.
Yes, so no matter what, as far as they're willing to, and then on the Iranians to say, oh, we will give in to all these things, and get some kind of a delay here. Is it really to be trusted? From what you're saying, it can't be trusted at all.
No, not at all. And of course, we did mention they're in violation of earlier treaties to which they remain a signatory, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, JCPOA, for examples.
So how long do you see this playing out, and especially, and how would this impact President Trump in the long run and for the Republicans?
Well, we mentioned that we addressed this question a couple times here, at least a few weeks going forward, maybe longer, several weeks, even a month or more, before all of the objectives of the United States and Israel are completed and met. But as how this might reflect upon President Trump, well, what I would say is that tomorrow, that is March 2, 2026 here, is the first, the evening is the beginning of the Jewish celebration of Purim that extends into the following day, Tuesday, March the 3rd. Of course, Purim is the story from the Bible, the Tanakh, that would be to Christians, they would say the Old Testament, but the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, the Megillah, that is the book of Esther, and that is the story of an evil Persian king many centuries ago, whose queen, Esther, unbeknownst to him somehow, was Jewish. But the king had an evil a senior aide, I guess maybe you'd call him Haman was his name, and he had plotted to murder, to slaughter all the Jews in the kingdom at that time. And this became known to Esther and to her uncle Mordecai. And together they revealed the plan. And in the end, the king turned the tables around. The evil Haman and all of his henchmen were the ones who went to the gallows. The Jews were spared. They were not killed. And the credit goes to the courage of Esther and, of course, her uncle Mordecai. So that is what is celebrated over these next couple of days by the Jewish people. And the timing, with President Trump, Operation Epic Fury, and the Israeli operation, Roaring Lion, it couldn't be more significant, really, and will go down in the annals of history as the modern day salvation, not just of the Jewish people, but of the Persian people by the Jewish people in kind of a way, maybe returning the favor from so many centuries ago, when a Persian queen who was Jewish helped to save the Jewish people.
Well, it is impeccable timing in this that the Jews are celebrating that wonderful holiday Purim, and so people can, of course, if they want to know more about the history of that, they can on the internet look up Purim, and it's a wonderful story as chronicled, as you mentioned in that Jewish book of Esther. I was reading that story today, and very inspirational and very courageous on the part of Esther to speak up on behalf of her other Jewish family there.
Yeah, exactly. And now, of course, we have President Trump and an Israeli Jewish Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, saving the Persian people from, again, an evil regime.
So many are praying about this, praying for the Iranian people to be free, and I hope that is very soon. The sooner, the better. I do encourage our audience to pray for our militaries, the Israeli military, the U.S. military, and comfort for all those that have lost their lives or families have had their families members that die in this military situation. Is so terrible. And of course, for all the Iranian people, for all the suffering they have gone through,
Yeah.
for comfort, I encourage people to pray for them. And hopefully a miracle will be here soon, that the Iranian people will be free from this evil modern day Haman regime. I appreciate your feedback, your expertise, Claire, on these so important issues that we're facing worldwide. It's on many levels. This is just more than just a military campaign. It's a as you mentioned, kind of a way of blessing the Persian people for all that they have done. In the case of King Azarias, that they went along with to honoring Queen Esther.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of a broader impact, a broader effect of what is going on right now, I think what we might mention to put it in that broader context that you're laying out there so well, is that these are the forces of freedom versus the forces of tyranny. That is what this is about. The free world versus the world, the empires of tyranny, and the effect of cutting off the shipment of oil out of Venezuela a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago, and now the end of the provision of Iranian oil to China in particular, I think is worth mentioning, because in the broader scope of these events, these campaigns, first against Venezuela, removing their leader, their dictator Nicolas Maduro, ending Venezuela's shipment of oil that went a lot of it to China, and now ending this regime in Tehran that also shipped a great deal of oil to China. This serves an even a greater, broader purpose if you want to take it in a more, global perspective.
Along with that, so what is your response to about China and Russia getting involved with trying to kind of hamper our efforts in the war process here?
Probably not much. Russia just hasn't got anything to spare, fully taken up with its aggression against Ukraine. And indeed, that assistance, if you will, went in the other direction. It was the Iranian regime that provided drones and drone technology to Russia for their use against the Ukrainian people. And as for China, it has been supplying Iran, yes, with, I guess, maybe some air defense, which wasn't very helpful back in June of 25, and probably not this time either. But also precursor chemicals like ammonium perchlorate, for example, that Iran no longer able to produce itself because of the strikes earlier on by Iran, Israel and the United States for its ballistic missiles, that sort of thing that China's been providing. We've seen a lot of big transport jets, flying from China to Iran. Not so much lately in the last few days, though, no. So I don't think that the two of them, Russia and China, will have much of an impact on current operations against the Iranian regime.
Well, as you mentioned, how China has been dependent upon not only just Venezuela, but also on China for oil.
Yeah,
If that
Iran.
if that if that oil supply is cut off, with a new government in Iran, with the Iranian people being free, that inhibits China's ability to get oil. I don't
Yes,
think that China would
yes.
be nervous about that. What are your
Well,
concerns about
not
that?
not just nervous about its forthcoming future supply of oil, but I would say watching very closely the masterful, strategically executed, perfect, set of airstrikes by Israel and the United States over these last just couple days against the Iranian regime, and maybe having some second thoughts. Russia, knowing that it's not going to be getting any more goodies from the Iranian regime to help its aggression against Ukraine, and China maybe having some second thoughts about mounting its own aggression against Taiwan.
Or even amounting their aggression towards us. I know that China had some of their ships in that Strait of Hormuz. I don't know why they were there exactly, but
Well, they were there, not now, but the Iranian regime prior to the onset of these operations held joint military exercises in around near the Strait of Hormuz with both Russian and Chinese naval vessels. That's ended, that's finished, they're gone. And in addition, the United States and Israel have sent, I guess, the better part of the Iranian Navy to the bottom of the Persian Gulf, and as well its naval headquarters on the Persian Gulf, now basically a pile of rubble. So that's that.
okay, that's where all the so-called fast boats came from, wasn't it?
I think you might be thinking of Venezuela with the fast boats, right? The cigarette boats that were transporting narcotics
And
up
no,
through the
no,
Caribbean.
Iran had some fast boats too that were threatening were threatening uh, ships
Uh,
in that
oh,
strait as well.
attacking shipping in that area, Persian Gulf.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is not really happening anymore right now. No.
Okay. Well, a lot of things.
Although I will, real quick, if I might, um, Iran has threatened to completely close the Strait of Hormuz to traffic going in either direction. And in those exercises that I just mentioned, together with Russia and China prior, demonstrated the capability of how they would do that if they were to do that. And as a result, there are something, the last report I saw, something like 150 tankers um, jammed up on either side of the Strait of Hormuz, hesitating to go through it, a very narrow passageway, hesitating to go through it in either direction, and just kind of piling up in the waterway, of the Persian Gulf, and the other side of the the Strait of Hormuz. So I don't know how long that can go on, but unfortunately, with the opening of markets tomorrow, March 3rd, probably going to see a spike in oil prices worldwide.
A lot of serious issues to deal with, Claire. Thank you for joining us. As I mentioned before, a developing story, and I look forward to having you back to give us, our viewers, an update on this matter. Once again, a website for people to know more about what you've been involved, your background. What website would you like
Well,
for people to?
unfortunately, I do not have a website, but I do post all my interviews like this one and my pieces that I write at the Citizens Commission on National Security, um, also at the United West, also at the Near East Center for Strategic Engagement, and I'm on social media. My name at Clare M. Lopez on Twitter, X. Same thing on Facebook at Clarecho, Clarecho on Truth Social, and at Lopez Liberty on Telegram.
Well, great. It's great to have that important information for people to get connection with you. And thank you for joining me and our viewers today. So important updates regarding Iran, the Middle East issues. And thank you, Claire.
Thank you so much. Very glad to have been with you.